streaming live. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to a very interesting, packed edition of Business Express. I'm looking forward to all the topics that we've got up for conversation. All right, so studio, that means that we're going to go live now.
It's a raw feed. We're doing it live.
Well, here we are. It is gone past 6:30, and this is Business Express on Smooth Breakfast. And today it's brought to you by Stanbic IBTC. Of course, Rotus is in. Good morning, Rotus. How you doing?
Fine, thank you. Good morning, Sope. Good morning to all our viewers. Good morning to our guests as well from Stanbic IBTC.
Yes. Exactly, and our guest, Abisola Kayode-Adedeji, who's the manager of client coverage of global markets with Stanbic IBTC. Good morning, Abisola. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing? Good morning.
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you.
Great to have you on the show with us. And of course, we've got you, so make sure you join the conversation. Go up on YouTube and say something on the live stream, and we will be able to read out your comments. youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. We are also taking comments, questions, contributions on WhatsApp. The number is 0809-440-981. And don't forget to hashtag Business Express 981 on Twitter and tag us at Smooth981FM at Rotanquote. Okay, so a lot is going on. So where are we going to start? Are we starting with the airlines? Because I see that Arik Air and Airpeace have issued some press releases with pretty interesting information. Should we start there?
Yeah, that's just pretty much just an announcement. I mean, we've been talking about the airlines for so long now. So it's just to confirm what's happening. They released it late afternoon yesterday. Arik went Airpeace first and then Arik second, basically saying the same thing. Jet fuel is scarce, it's very expensive, and it might impact flights. So if you are planning on flying out this morning or later this afternoon, in fact, if it's not first flight, you're in trouble. But so if you are, which means you should be at the airport now flying out. So if you are on flying, then your flights might be canceled or disrupted because jet fuel is so expensive. That's just it. That's it.
My goodness.
Watch it. Indeed, it's crazy. It's just nuts. Well, Abisola, why don't you help tell us what you do for Stanbic?
Okay. Thank you, Rotus. Thank you, Sope. I work in global markets, which is the treasury arm of the bank, and I offer treasury-related solutions to my customers, primarily customers in the FMCG space and power and infrastructure. That is the fast-moving consumer goods. And we have quite a few names on that roster. Most of our personal healthcare and multinational names sits in that sphere.
Great stuff. So what's, I guess for your clients, what's the mood been like? What have your interactions been like with clients recently?
The mood has been at least akin to what we've been talking about since we got here this morning, which is the fact of with the global increase in interest rates and all that. It means the cost of borrowing, cost of doing business, and cost of borrowing has gone up invariably. So we are struggling with the same thing. There could be an executive also traveling this morning, going for a meeting, and of course, this might have to be rescheduled, or even the cost of buying a ticket itself. So we have to also put that in mind that even for institutions, for companies, or even the representatives of these companies, we all bear this cost one way or the other.
Indeed, it's a crazy situation. Yeah, like Sope said, there's a whole lot going on. I wanted to get your thoughts on Presco. I guess they're in the agri space. They're apparently looking to buy. What's the name of this company? Siat Nigeria Limited. I think about $21 billion. 21 billion naira, not dollars.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that deal?
I think is a smart move, because number one is going to increase their market share and market share, because the Siat itself is already established. Siat I think has about 2 or 3 big estate productions, crop productions, and palm fronts also around the River State area. So by acquiring such a company, it's the cream on the top, because one is going to boost your production And the way, I'm not an agri specialist, but the way crop production works and all that, I know they are done with planting. At least from one of the write-ups I saw, they are done with planting. And so to be able to acquire another company that has its own set of production estates and all, it means that you, to a large extent, you've increased your market share, cost of production itself. So these are in terms of driving a business in sustained growth and all that, I think it's a good decision. It's a good decision.
Yeah, and it looks like investors like it because I think Presco was the top gainer on the exchange, on
Correct.
the stock exchange. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So I guess so investors like it. To follow up on what you're saying.
Oh yes, because it's what you've done by then is to increase your frontiers. You've increased your frontiers first things first. You've gained more market share, and then you're not buying a tail company. You're buying a company in its prime. So it's you will always, and of course you see the effect itself on even on your market share.
Good stuff. From Greek to telecoms, I understand Airtel has paid off one of their debts, I think about a year early, $500 million senior unsecured notes. So what do you make of that decision to pay off that debt a full 1 year ahead of when it matures?
I think that's the very good move, particularly in terms of reducing your dollar debt exposure. You know, we all know what the cost of interest rate is right now because of all the effects going on. We're just out of the pandemic. The effects of that itself on the cost of inflation and all that, and interest rates rising. So if you are able to pull in funds and reduce your debt exposure, you have in that way strengthened your balance sheet. And of course, deleveraging is always a good move. Finally, if you're able to do it even pre-repayment schedule, it's a very good pointer. It speaks of the fact that it's a responsible corporate organization. It strengthens your corporate governance. It's going to boost investors and, should I say, your shareholders' confidence. And so it's a good one. It's a good one.
All right. And this is part of what I guess you talk about this stuff with your clients.
Oh, sure.
Okay, great stuff. What else is going on today? We have so many stories. Okay, look, another interesting one. Kimberly Clark. I think they manufacture diapers,
of feminine products. Yeah,
exactly, a feminine product. They just commissioned a new factory. I guess with everything going on in Nigeria, is it good news to hear of a company being able to commission a new factory in spite of everything else happening in the country?
I think it's very laudable. If anybody is able to commission a factory at this point in time, we're all just talking about the cost of running any form of industry, and then the fact itself that they've situated it is in quite a sleepy part of town and not in the metropolis. It's going to boost economic activities around that place, and I'm sure that they'll be able to get a lot of support, particularly at this period, because number one, I know they've been around for a while, and I know that with this they intend to be like an export hub. So they're not just producing to service Nigeria; they're also going to be expanding their frontiers, probably from maybe West Africa and probably the African region. And so you know what that's
made in Nigeria.
Yeah. So
products.
any form of activity that will boost backward integration, reduce, of course, the pressure on foreign exchange is always laudable. So I doff my hat off to them. I'm sure there's been a lot of hurdles, but they came through, and that's a good one.
Speaking of hurdles, one of the hurdles to opening a factory in this country is power and your overhead costs. I guess there was an article, is either in Nairametrics, so I can't remember where the article is. It talks about the metering gap in the country. Thankfully, we all have lights, but at any moment now, it can go off and my screen will go dark at any minute. But what do you make of where we are in closing the metering gap in Nigeria?
Okay, so I know they rolled out a program, I think was anchored by the central bank, and it's called something on the National Mass Metering Program.
That's correct. You're right.
Yes, and it's supposed to boost matching by about 1 million. And I think my last read up somewhere, I think I read something about the total registered consumers is just about 12 or 13 million compared to a population of over 200 million.
Right.
So that itself explains that there's a major gap there. They need to do their work in terms of, because what it means is that there's a lot of illegal connection, that their collections is more than deplorable. And so they need to close that metering gap, because what it does by getting your meter is that you're on the system and then you're only being charged for what you use. And then itself, it helps in connecting and knowing, okay, my database, this is what I have. Even in terms of service delivery, how do you deliver service when you don't even have a proper database of your users? So I know they rolled out about 1 million meters. I know that which was anchored around that program, but there's a lot of work to be done in that and I know they've given there's something called maybe like a meter asset plan, and they've given themselves to 2023. There's an anchored program where it's strategic towards bridging the gap. So
hold on, they've given themselves to when?
I think to 2023. So there's like a metering asset plan. And I know also in conjunction with the program by the central bank, I know they've got their work cut out for them, bridging that gap, because that is a massive gap compared to, at least, I know, maybe in the interland, some places are not even powered, but,
right.
Compared to the population, you can't just have that minute figure. There's a whole lot of work to be done in that space.
All right, I've got this message in on WhatsApp from Ogeno Chuko, who says, commissioning a factory in Nigeria, how are they going to overcome the power issue?
Well, that's the question.
Right? So I know that for some institutions, and this is just based on personal knowledge, some have gone through solar. So what he sees here is a case of management. I'm sure that we've got to a stage in Nigeria that we can't say, oh, they shouldn't open a factory, because we are forgetting what is on the other side. There's a headwind, and of course there are the tailwinds. But the reality is that it's going to boost economic activities in that area. There are going to be job opportunities in that area, and I'm sure they've thought of all that. But I know that what they'll be thinking of also is probably like solar, and probably for a nation like Nigeria that we're in the Sahara, and God has given us so much sunlight. Why can't we use it to generate electricity? So I'm sure they are working, probably, there's a management of between their diesel, solar. I'm just thinking on top of my head, I know a lot of companies have been using it as a way to, at least sustain themselves, because your overheads might kill you if you're not careful. And I'm sure they don't want that to happen to them. So just on the top of my head, I'm sure they've worked through that side, because they know they need to power. It's a production company, and they need to get the factory open and running.
And let me take this final message in from Gilbert Musa from Festac, who says, all these years as a country that produced crude oil, we can't boast of oil reserves. We keep complaining of external shocks. Can't we have a master plan for external shocks? And there's this one in from Gbenga Akomu, who says, those discos are more interested in estimated billing than in giving meters.
If they make a lot of money from estimated billing, that's correct. They do.
They really do.
They really do.
All right, so that's all we've got time for this show. Just to say thank you so much for joining us, Abisola. Where can we find more information from Stanbic on social media?
Of course, we can get someone on the internet, www.stanbicibtc.com, and I know we have a very robust and live Instagram and Facebook page, so they can also reach out to us as well. And of course, with the presence of over 180 branches all across the country, where you can walk into any of our branches. But most of our social media platforms are very active and live, and you could also reach out to us for any information or in terms of our products and services and complaints as well. We are open to also receiving that as well. Feedback. Feedback will be
excellent. And there's also an email, call me at stanbicibtc.com. Any inquiries about what's been discussed?
Correct. So you have that also.
Call me at stanbicibtc.com.
Great.
Abisola, thank you so much, Abisola.
Thank you guys for having me. Enjoy the rest of the day. Take care.
You too. That's
Bye.
Abisola Kayode-Adedeji, who's the manager client coverage global markets with Stanbic IBTC. And Rotus, of course, thank you for joining me as well.
Thank you.
It's been a very engaging show. Lots that we discussed. And of course, you can go and catch that replay on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Keep the conversation going with Rotus. He's up on social media at Rotanquote. There you go.
Yes, indeed.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tech Friday. I'm excited.
Yes, Tech Friday. Lots to discuss. See ya.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right, see you then.
Take care.
All right, bye, Abisola.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, that's it. And coming up, freshly pressed at 7:30. Till then, it's good music all the way. Business Express.